All right, guys, we ain't done yet. I've been talking about this dude that started spreading lies about me. If you didn't see part 1 to 3, go watch those first because you won't know what's going on. I quit hanging around everyone altogether except Renee. I was sick of everyone's BS and I told her that. Only I never told her what I really thought about Jay because she wasn't ready to hear it. And I was still working for her as my second job. There's still more that happened. But once I started realizing things, I slowly tapered off. These people never took accountability for anything. Anytime I'd call something out, they'd always find a way to turn it around on me. It also irked me that a lot of times, mostly in the beginning, they'd treat me like I was a joke.
And of course, accusing me of a crime.
And literally telling me it wasn't possible good-looking guys could like me. Renee would also call me weird simply for having different interests than her.
Basically, after all of the stuff they did, they also wanted to run around right after and would go up to strangers and ask them if they went to church and ask what their beliefs were. Like, you don't just do that. There was one day she started grilling me out of nowhere about how my spiritual life was. It's people like them that turn off others from listening to anything of the sort. I never was, but I know people who were.
Renee's younger brothers were turned off to all of it because the parents didn't know how to handle things they were going through.
Her parents had adopted them out of Ukraine and they had horrible trauma.
And this is important because it explains why Chris did some of the things he did. And Renee's aunt and uncle also adopted a boy and a girl from Ukraine as well. And they too had terrible trauma.
I'm not going to show a demonstration for this one because no matter what happened later, that would be incredibly disrespectful.
Chris and the younger one, John, were 8 and 5 years old when their parents died. And it was on Christmas Day around 5 a.m. 2 robbers broke into their house. They had woken their parents up so everyone could open presents. They all heard glass breaking downstairs and went to see what it was. They saw the 2 men and both parents tried to fight them off. And Chris and John hid under the kitchen table and stayed very quiet. Chris covered John's eyes so he wouldn't see what was going on and said no matter what happened, not to make a single sound.
Chris saw everything. He saw them shoot and kill both parents.
After they left, he grabbed John and they went to a neighbor for help. They didn't get adopted until Chris was like 14 or 15. He told me that only because Renee asked him to tell me because I was afraid to ask him. Not that I would want anything bad to happen to just anyone, but he gets life. The others didn't. They haven't been through a single thing aside from Jay. Renee was so spoiled she couldn't hold a job until she started working for the family business. She wasn't working at a store hardly 3 weeks before she started being late all the time. Apparently one day, she heard her friends were going to see a movie, and she literally cried to her boss about it until he let her off. He also fired her. Entitled much? Apparently she did stuff like that a lot, and Chris indicated to me before he thought they all were dumb. I noticed he wasn't around much and mostly stayed out of everything. And now we come to August of 2012. I may have had one of the years wrong in the previous video. All the youth and what was left of the college group were at an event at Wilsonville. The pastor whispered something to John and his cousin. Then they left in a hurry. I saw the pastor and Jeff whispering to each other, and Jeff called everyone's attention. Jeff announced that earlier that day, Renee's parents got in a motorcycle accident. They had gone to South Dakota for a motorcycle rally mission trip, and they were on the way back to Alabama. Apparently, they were riding through Wyoming and somehow went off the road. They were taken to a hospital, and not long after, Renee's dad died. This was a blow to the entire community. And this will now be the second time Chris and John lost a parent. I didn't talk to him much, but I remember him being the happiest one in that whole family. He said he loved having people at the house and anyone could come over whenever they wanted. He said, don't call, just show up, that it was more fun that way. He loved traveling and bringing anyone who wanted to join. And he insisted paying for everything, even when we brought our own money. I remember one night at a gathering, he noticed I wasn't happy. He asked how I was doing, and I told him I finally got a job, and he said he was proud of me. He was trying to cheer me up because he saw my face when Quinn entered the room.
Don't worry about what they think.
Hey, listen, if you need to talk about anything at all, I'll be here.
Oh, okay, sure. Thanks. I never did, but I wished I had just told him what was going on. My sisters and I looked at each other and knew it was over, since he was the only one keeping everyone together. I guess I'll skip the rest of 2012, since I already kind of told some of what happened. I was working, hanging out with Renee, and trying to make new friends. My middle sister and her boyfriend who worked with me, and another guy who also went to Brook Hills, who also worked with me. We all were hanging out separately from Renee's group. In the beginning, Matt would kind of stare or watch me sometimes whenever he was close to my department.
So I figured I'd go talk to him one day.
And I had found out I was in the same Sunday school class as his younger sister. So I thought that was great. We can include him in our outings. It was nice hanging out with Andrew and Matt, my new friends. Or so I thought. My sister and Andrew broke up after 3 months and he moved to Colorado. Matt and I were cool for 2 years until 2013 when he started acting strange. I don't remember what started it exactly, but Matt and I started fighting a lot. It sucked because I thought we were going to be best friends and we talked about literally everything. There also was one event we went to at Lay Lake and Zach surprised us with a visit. He also brought his younger sister, Raya, and introduced her. I was so happy and excited they were there, and she and I talked the entire time. After Christmas, she just stopped talking to me, so I was really hurt and angry after that, and no one could get a hold of Zach and talk to him either, so I just withdrew from everyone until August. My depression got worse, and I wondered why no one really wanted to be friends with me. I noticed that even though people claim we were friends, they still treated me different from everyone else. But let's talk about the week of VBS my sisters and I helped with. I have footage of this as well, and both my sisters signed up to help.
Make me move, Jesus, every breath I take, everywhere I look, I see your face, your love. Every move I make, I'm thinking.
I didn't sign up, but the pastor said I could help if I wanted to anyway. Renee's youngest sister was attending, and I wanted to spend more time with her. All her older siblings were adults and were busy, and she really liked having me around. So I helped out for 3 days, and my sisters were supposed to help for 5. I've been waiting for the right moment to talk about Jay's mom.
Who was the most hateful person in that place? Now, this lady paraded around like she was a huge Christian.
Now, don't get me wrong, everyone isn't like the people I've dealt with, but there is a problem here. Too many churches let psychos in places they have no business in. She was the front desk receptionist and like a youth assistant to Jeff, but her job was mostly the front desk. Like she didn't have authority like Jeff or the pastor,
Unless they specifically put her in charge when they were gone.
Since the day we started going, I noticed she glared at most people. When Austin, my sisters, and I tried talking to her, she literally would just stare at us and never say a word. Or if one of us was talking to someone else in the lobby, she'd straight up turn around and just stare out the window until the conversation ended. Family aside, she apparently loved these 3 other siblings and let them help her sometimes. They were Katie, Sarah, and Nick, and I liked them a lot too. In fact, Nick took Jeff's place when he retired. I saw him a couple years ago and he's a great person. Even sold me my first gun. So his older sister, Sarah, helped keep an eye on the youth or whatever. Jay's mom never bothered me, and I didn't think anything about her until one night, January 2010, I'll never forget. It's not huge, but it does add to the problem. One night, both Chris and I were sitting on top of an unused table in the back of the room, and Jay's mom had come up there to give Jeff something 2 nights in a row and told me to get off. She snaps her fingers like I'm a dog, and Chris was just as confused as I was. And she never told Chris to do the same. I asked Jeff if I could sit there, and he said yes. So after about 3 weeks, she sees me again and told me to follow her to the hall.
I have told you multiple times to get off that table, so why do you insist on defying me?
Because I can, Karen.
I wasn't. I was only there because Jeff said I could, and the seats are filled.
I don't care what Jeff said. You're supposed to be setting an example for those kids in there.
I don't have a problem with that, but I'm 19 years old. You don't need to me talking to me like I'm your child.
I don't care. I'm the adult and you will respect me. Jeff will hear about this.
Isn't Jeff in charge here?
And why are you talking to me like this when I've done nothing to you? And why didn't you tell Chris the same thing then? He was on the table too.
Chris has nothing to do with this.
I don't remember what else was said except,
I don't know what your beef is with me, but Jeff will hear about this. Now get back in there and sit in a regular chair.
Go ahead, tell him. I'm not worried.
when the lesson was over, I told Jeff and his wife what happened. All they had to say was, "That's just how she is." Like, are you kidding? Like, why did you allow her to be a you-know-what to people? And the next week, I asked her if we could talk, and she said,
Nope, there's nothing to talk about.
like, give me a reason to go the heck outside. They said, oh, he's her baby. Okay, well, even that doesn't excuse her attitude towards everyone and undermining Jeff. Looking back, I realized she always has this mesmerized smile on her face when talking to Chris. So in my experience, when old women act hateful towards me when there's a cute guy around, it means they like them. Like, ma'am, that's your family and he's the age of your children. I wonder what Jay would think about his own mother if that ever got out. So now at VBS, while my sisters were with the music director practicing on day 4, she comes marching in the sanctuary, and I couldn't hear everything she said, but she hands the director a paper and says to my sisters,
"We already have enough people for the week, so you're gone."
Jeff wasn't there that day, so I know she took advantage of him not being around. She actually said the rest of the week. It was Wednesday when this happened. The director was confused, and she said something about them not being on the list or something like that. I'm willing to bet she did away with the original sign-up sheet or something and made a new sheet without their names on it, because that's the kind of person she was. I had enough of her and actually talked to Jay about it, and he wasn't happy.
I really don't appreciate you talking about my mom.
I'm not saying anything bad. I'm only telling you what she's been doing. And none of us appreciate how she's treated us. If you don't believe me, ask Austin and Trent.
I asked if he could talk to her before my dad does and find out what's going on. He did, and of course, she denied it. Even asked Quinn if he knew why she did that, and he, like everyone else, just gave her excuses. So back to 2013. This was in February, I think. I decided I was going to tell Sarah everything one night. I pulled her aside in the parking lot while the others were talking. I told her, I know he's your boyfriend, but he's a jerk and I can't stand to be around him. I told her how he accused me of stalking him for 2 years and how everyone made me feel like I was ugly and the depression I was going through.
Wait, he accused you of a crime?
I am so sorry I didn't explain sooner. I had absolutely nothing against you. I'm sorry I ignored you all this time. I was only doing it to get at Quinn. It was the only thing I could get him back with. Did he not say anything? I'm surprised he didn't tell you that.
He didn't say anything except that you liked him. But I knew something was wrong when you didn't want to sit with us. I really have been worried about you. I told him that.
And to my surprise, she said,
And don't worry, I'll set him straight once and for all.
Oh, Kara, I'm so glad you told me what's going on. And I'd love to be your friend.
she would set him straight. Like, she actually listened, and it was a relief. She even told me she didn't believe I would do that stuff. And she talked to him on the way home. I don't know what she told him, but he never bothered me again with all that BS. So we planned to hang out soon, but for a while she was consumed with work. Now, to my utter surprise, Renee tells me at the end of March that Quinn and Sarah broke up. I was actually glad because this girl dodged a freaking missile with this psycho. Apparently that same week she talked to Renee about it. And apparently Sarah and Renee had a fight and didn't speak to each other. And neither one of them would tell me what they fought about that resulted in that. I was offended that Renee wasn't telling me because she would always pressure me to tell her stuff. I will always find out stuff, and I did. And I'll get back to that later. I let it go for a while, but I was determined to find out. June comes, and it's both Renee's mom's and Quinn's birthdays. They planned this party in advance, which was an extreme rarity, so both of them could be there. I actually have a good bit of footage from that evening, but I can't really show it. Not without kind of disguising it. He said twice he'd be an hour late, but he was coming, so we all just danced. were actually having a blast. I know I was especially without him. We were 3 hours in and he still didn't show and told us go ahead and have cake. He wasn't coming. So when the party was over, then he decided to show up. He came in right when everyone but me and my sisters left. My middle sister instantly gave him the 3rd degree as soon as he walked in. He said he stayed at work even though he didn't have to. Even people and his boss at his work wanted him to go to his own party. He really didn't have an excuse not to show up. Everybody thought that was rude. I had only come for Renee's mom. Even if he wasn't crazy about his own birthday, he still should have come out of respect for her, especially since Renee's dad was no longer with us. Renee's parents gave him free room and board during his stay here and did a lot for him. Even Jay had something to say about that. I saw them talking in the study as we walked out the door. Now, I did give Jeff a brief rundown of what has been going on later, and he said not to worry about it, that he knew that they all exaggerated. I even decided to also talk to the pastor when I had learned Jay and Quinn had talked about me to them. And he too said he knew I didn't do any of what they accused me of. And he said he had already talked to them about it, which was great. I already started to feel better about everything. I still didn't hang out with anyone but Renee. I also later met my sister's friend's sister, Treasure, when she came to work at Winn-Dixie. We start hanging out a lot, and one day when I was in the car practicing driving, I was telling her about something funny Treasure said, and then she started getting all insecure.
I feel like you're replacing me with Treasure.
Whenever I hung out with someone else, she'd say I'm replacing her, which was stupid.
She hung out with Sarah all the time before they fought, and I didn't care. I said, no, I'm not. We have different schedules and haven't been able to coordinate them yet. Then, when I had that one day I could use her car to try practicing again. I don't know what made her say it, but out of nowhere she said,
I just think you're using me for trips, to get your license and getting free food.
Where the heck did you get that from? No one is using you. I have a job. You are the one who offered to take me around. And you didn't have to. I mean, are you looking for a way out or something?
I know I didn't have to. I'm not looking for a way out. I just want you to admit you've been using me.
Well, it sounds to me like someone is making stuff up, because that came out of nowhere.
She then turned around and said I was right about having a job and I'm paying for my own stuff, that is. So what was the point of saying all that crap? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I turned that car around and took it right back to her house. There is much more ahead as I start to level up little by little.
And I'll continue in part 4. And let me be clear, I'm not bashing the church or anything, but like I said, there is a problem. And don't get me wrong, I loved going to Wilsonville. I learned a lot, and I had good memories with the other members. And when we visited Cody's dad's house, I think I vaguely recall finally talking to Jay's mom. She said she had nothing against us. And I think she eventually apologized, which was great. Most of the dialogue is paraphrased, but I do remember some exact conversations. I wanted to ask Trent if he remembers that day, but he's extremely hard to get a hold of now. I might try again one day. Anyway, I'll post part 4 in a week or 2. If you haven't seen part 1, watch that before the others. I noticed only like 400 watched it, and the last one I think 1,000 watched. Might want to see how all this got started. That whole 6 years was a roller coaster. But yeah, hope all goes well with you all this week, and I'll see you in the next one.